Hi, I'm Chris from the Ethics Centre. Ethics plays a vital role in helping us make decisions that we can feel proud of. We often make choices without considering the alternatives or the impact that that's going to have on our lives. So we challenged Australians to consider an alternative. How would you feel if you weren't allowed to vote?
If we weren't allowed to vote,
That's a really interesting question.
I would move country. I'd leave. Yeah, absolutely.
It wouldn't be good if we weren't allowed to vote, but we should have a choice.
well, we wouldn't be living in a democracy. So I would feel very bad about that.
I like the idea that it's mandatory to vote because then if you make a choice that you don't, if you want to throw your vote away, that's your choice. So if that was taken away from me, I think that I wouldn't agree to that.
It is not important if you whether you want to vote or not, but it is important if you have the right.
I would have a visceral reaction to that. Like I don't get a choice. I've always had a choice. But then at the same time, it's an interesting question because what am I doing with my choice currently? Probably not making the best informed decision. But I would feel a certain way if we then didn't have the option, for sure.
It depends on what that system would look like. So if it was an authoritarian dictatorship compared to if I'm not allowed to vote because it's more of a sort of Greek style of having a philosopher king. So it really depends on that.
So for a few years I wasn't allowed to because I wasn't yet a citizen. So I had my permanent residency when I arrived, and then 5 years later I became a citizen. So for those 5 years it was incredibly frustrating because my taxpayers' money was taken from me and yet I didn't have a voice. I know it sounds a privilege to be able to vote, but actually I think it's a right, and I think anyone who lives in this country and pays taxes should have that right rather than having to wait those 5 years.